Hello and welcome. On behalf of Emancipation Park Conservancy, thank you for joining us and supporting us during our Emancipation Park's 149th Annual Juneteenth celebration presented by Shell. I am Lucy Bremond, Executive Director of Emancipation Park Conservancy. Before we begin the webinar, I would like to share some information with you about the historic Emancipation Park, the Conservancy, and our We Are Juneteenth campaign. Emancipation Park was founded in 1872 by formerly enslaved African Americans led by Reverend Jack Yates, Richard Allen, Richard Brock, and Reverend Divell. These men, along with members of the 3rd and 4th Ward communities, gathered $800 to purchase 10 acres of land and to celebrate their freedom, which was June 19, 1865, 2 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. In 2013, the park underwent a $33.6 million renovation and later reopened in June 2017. Several public-private partnerships in the community work to revitalize the green space and to allow more economic and sustainable opportunities. Emancipation Park Conservancy is a nonprofit 501(c) charitable corporation, and it was established in 2014 to restore, manage, and enhance Emancipation Park. Its purpose was to create an open space of environmental community excellence while continuing to preserve the park's integrity and historical roots. Its goal is to transform the historic Emancipation Park into one of the nation's premier landmarks, international destination through capital initiatives, operational improvements, strategic partnerships, programming, and special events.
Thank you all so much for joining us for our post-show question and answer for Marian's song. My name is Eboni Bell, and I was the assistant stage director for Marian's song in almost the entirety of its process. And I'm so excited to join you today for a question and answer session with some of the creative team and cast of the show. Right now, we're going to start to welcome the team, and if they could introduce themselves so we can get started with our conversation. Hi, Zoe, will you start us off?
Yes, hi, my name is Zoe. I had the honor of playing Marian Anderson. Nice to be here.
Wonderful. Christy.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christy Shackelford. I was the costume designer, and so glad to be here this evening.
Thank you, Christy. Deep.
Hi, my name is Deborah Deep Mouton, and I was the librettist for Marian's song.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, my name is Dennis Whitehead Darling, and I was the stage director for the production.
Hey, Tina.
Hey, everybody. So my name is Tina B, and I had the distinguished honor of playing the role of Nevaeh Johnson.
That's wonderful. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us for this conversation. Let's just hop right in because we don't have that much time. Let's start off with how this project got started. Deep, where did you get the inspiration to write about Marian Anderson and her life?
Yeah, actually, I was approached by HGO and asked. They actually had a storybook that they wanted to bring to life and thought that incorporating spoken word would be really cool. And as we started to dive in and I started to read her autobiography, I started finding all of these moments that kind of lived outside of that storybook, but were still, really meaningful and really important to understand who she was as a person. And so I just started from there, kind of stitching together what the story of Marian Anderson was and what is kind of something that we could take away. She has this ridiculously long and beautifully decorated career, and so we couldn't get everything, but it is important for us to kind of get like the heart of what she did and who she is.
Absolutely agree. And what about some of the rest of you when you got involved with the project? Dennis, can you tell us about when you first heard about Marian's song and how you got involved with this project?
Well, I was actually in London working with English National Opera, and I got an email from this wonderful person, Emily Wells, who said, "Hey, we've got this project that we're looking for a director. It's about Marian Anderson." And I knew a little bit about Marian Anderson, but not a ton. So I immediately went online and Googled the heck out of her name and discovered this fantastic, powerful, graceful, beautiful woman who galvanized a nation and changed public policy and helped bridge the racial divide in our arts and socially as well. So was shocked to find out such a powerful and rich story by this very just quiet, demure person, artist who used her talent to change the world.
That's fantastic.
So I was like, I'm on board if you'll have me. And they said they'll have me. So I went down and met Deborah and Damien, our composer, and we just hit it off. And it was a wonderful collaboration from the get-go. And fortunately, they decided to hire me. And and so I got to take this all the way home to where we are today. So it was wonderful, 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 wonderful.
Yes, fortunate is an understatement. We're so happy to have you as the leader of this project, Dennis. And I see here that it's your birthday today.
Thank you. It was actually yesterday, but you know, I celebrate the entire month. So we'll say it's my birthday today. Okay.
Okay, yes. Take up all that space and time. I really, love what both of you were just saying about the importance of Marian's story and the importance of telling these social justice pieces. I wonder if Zoe, you wouldn't mind speaking to what playing Marian means to you in regards to her impact that she had in our country as far as social justice and change and freedom are concerned.
Sure. Yeah, Marian Anderson has always been an idol of mine, being a Black opera singer and a mezzo-soprano. So I also showed the storybook, which I thought was beautiful, and I also didn't know existed until Emily brought it to me, and I was just sort of like, wow, this is incredible. But it was such an honor for me. I just wanted to do her justice because she is truly, honestly, in terms of Black opera, one of the most integral parts of seeing Black singers, even expanding people's ear to something like spirituals, which wasn't done necessarily in concert fashion, especially in places like Europe where she was traveling. That wasn't a practice. I mean, the American spiritual, you could say Marian brought it, right? Like out of America. And there was a way for other people to interact with that type of performance, just like they interacted with, the classical performance of opera or art song, German lied, French chanson. So it's really, it's been an honor, and I can't even tell you how excited I was when I first found out, but I definitely think in the grand arc of, Black singers, Marian Anderson is an extremely key role that she played for everybody.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I did not know about Marian Anderson until I, joined this project to be the assistant stage director. But my grandmother knew everything about her, which I thought was so incredibly aligned with the story that Deep is telling. And I wonder, and Zoe or Deep can speak to this. Like, were you surprised that Houston Grand Opera was going to be putting on an opera about her life, or were you, expecting it or pleasantly surprised?
Yeah, I can say pleasantly surprised. I think that when Black artists show up in spaces and we tell stories about artists that maybe didn't get their full due, it's always a little bit of a surprise for us to kind of see how they were looked over or moved around, and how their really big impact maybe was quieted in some ways. And I think it's really a testament to just the fact that the majority of the people on this call had no idea about the breadth of Marian Anderson's impact, but are wildly aware of it now. And so I think it was just kind of, that was the work that drew us all in, was saying we have this great opportunity to tell this story that everyone should be totally aware of and should know exactly how this works as a model for how we move into social justice in our world. And if we could do any justice in kind of showing that light, you know, we would be doing it right.
Incredible. Thank you.
And I'm just interested in, when we're looking back at history and expanding what history is and how rewriting, in a sense, our history books to include people of color, and the timing of that, because I was also doing a production of Porgy and Bess, and the timing of that and Black Lives Matter movement and all of that was happening at the time, that just really interests me and drew me to this work. I was like, yes, we need to keep telling the full picture. Because, I mean, there were things like, I didn't know anything about Tulsa until that just came up recently. And that's really sad that I would know about that. So, you know, I'm glad that we had the opportunity to tell a story, and I hope that we continue to do so.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dennis. Fully agree. You know, I think one of the most interesting things about this script too is that it really allowed for another art form to live alongside of opera. And I wonder, Tina, would you mind, you know, speaking to how you got involved with Houston Grand Opera as a spoken word artist?
What's that saying? Surround yourselves with eagles and you can fly. So no, but it's something to the nature of being with people of ambition and surrounding yourself with people who are going places. And so, to be honest with you, I've said this before in passing in any interview that I've had the privilege of sharing how I got involved with Houston Grand Opera. It was because I had a deep friendship with Deep. As a fellow poet, we were emerging poets, I would like to say, in Houston back in the day when we first started. And I saw a lot of ambition in her as well as a few other artists. And here we are, you know, years later. I would even say, man, almost a decade later. Well, 2 decades later. Anyway, still being good friends and finding ourselves with some pretty successful careers. And so what happened was Deep was invited to write a libretto, and she needed someone to play the character while she can kind of take a backseat and evaluate, you know, the format and the layout of how everything was going. So I was just a placeholder, if you will, in my opinion. But then came the opportunity to say, no, you're casted. Like, no, we really want you to be a part of the actual production. And that for me was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting that by any means. And so one thing led to another. And then here I am, lights, camera, action. So on stage.
That is fantastic. And, you know, Christy, can you speak to how you were involved in the project or got involved in the project as the costume designer, and what the importance of costuming a show like this means to you?
Absolutely. I was working on a show, actually took over a design at Rice University that Emily was directing. And I had no idea, like others have mentioned, about Marian Anderson's story. And toward the end of our production, I think I was Picasso at Le Panagio, Emily was like, hey, I have this project. And I was like, tell me more. And so when she told me, I was like, yeah, I would love to. And I immediately told my mom. And she was like, oh, Christy. And like Zoe, she said, you know, your grandparents went and saw Marian Anderson on her farewell tour. And I was like, oh my goodness, this written in the stars. And I was just so honored and proud to be a part of it. And when telling the story with the costumes, because we span over 100 years of time, it was really important for me to get those looks. And I know there were so many changes, and but it really enhanced the story, and getting those little details like the tights for the or stockings for the ladies that don't match our skin tone, because in the 30s they didn't match skin tone, you know, and making sure I got the trim, and like I sketched out and drew out the trim from the image that I saw of her actual garment that Marian wore. Um, that's in the Smithsonian, and having the support of the costume shop to be able to produce these items really just made everything full circle, and just showed how beautiful and how incredible her life story was. And I mean, I could go on and on, but I don't want to take up too much time.
Good.
It's just was a passion of mine. I about that trim, I will say I read that she purchased it in France and or in Europe among her travels, and I felt a real connection to that because I used to, as a child, go to the store and just buy little pieces of trim or see little things that I liked and just hold on to them because you never know when you're going to need it. And there's a running joke with costumers that the woman with the most fabric at the end wins. So I'm in the running, and I was just really proud to be able to find that connection and help tell the story.
Absolutely. Like, I think this story really affected me, like being on a team that was highly representative of Black artists, and like telling a Black story really affected me positively in my career in Houston, because we've been working on this project for over a few years now, some odd years. And I wonder if, any of you will speak to how this story has changed or affected your life, how telling it or being a part of it has changed or affected your life. Yeah.
I know for me, getting the first draft of this with the music and the libretto, I like to read them. I like to read the libretto and then listen to the music separately, even though you get the piano vocal score together. And I was just kind of almost moved to tears with just reading the libretto alone. Like, it was so powerful. And so I think that in being part of this work, it's given me, it's strange. It's almost like we talk a lot in the libretto about ancestors and sort of surrounding yourself with who you are, where you come from. And Nevaeh's big search is that, things that are from the past, we don't look back on. If it's old, we get rid of it. We want to move forward. But a lot of where we come from, our past is us. It's the future, right? The past comes from the future, and vice versa. So it's sort of exciting for me. I feel like I have a new sort of wave behind me as an artist. Not just as a Black artist, just an artist in general. I mean, obviously as a Black artist, but I feel like for me, it's almost like this show has come behind me, and I feel Marian's spirit, and I feel that sort of pushing me forward. The momentum of this piece is really powerful to me. So I just have a really special place in my heart for this music, the libretto, being on stage and working with everyone here. So that's how it's affected me.
I love that.
I think it's the project as a whole has just been overwhelmingly positive and wonderful to have, a company like Houston Grand Opera to invest and really get behind this project and celebrate it, and to be early in my career to have this sort of experience has been really, has spoiled me a bit, but it also has given me some confidence about sort of where I am as an artist. But I think one of the most profound moments was when one of the chorus members in this piece came up to me and said, I've never worked with a Black director before. And I was like, wow, and you live in Houston. And I was shocked, but then I felt this sort of responsibility of as a director, as an artist, that it's sort of that I really needed to bring my game when I work. That I am one of the few that are emerging in this art of opera, and that I just need to understand that responsibility and really push myself to be the best that I can be. It was a pretty profound moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll jump in. For me, I'm sorry, Tina, I didn't see your hand, so I will start talking. You want to go? Okay.
You can go, sis.
Okay. I think that for a long time in my life, especially as a performance poet, I lived most of my life on stage, and it was very much, kind of like a one woman show in a lot of instances of kind of deciding to get on stage and perform things. And in my head, I had characters and I had scenes and I had sets and I had all the things that I never thought that I had permission to do. And so what like this story has done for me has kind of ignited in me this passion for putting things on stage in ways that I never thought that I was allowed to do. With people who maybe have never been allowed to do them. We were at our rap party, and a few of the singers said to us that they had never been in a production where they had seen more than one other person that looked like them on stage at a time. And like I didn't really cry any other time. I promise y'all. Like I didn't cry at the opening. I didn't cry none of it. I wasn't a tearful thing. I was just really happy. But hearing that I made space for people and looking around and seeing how many people were able to work because of something that I created. And that I was able to be used in that way, to make room for a new narrative. Like that work, I think for me will be life-changing. And Carlene Graham said to me before she left Houston Grand Opera, she said, I'm going to make a librettist out of you, even if this is the last thing I do. And I think she won. I think she won, y'all. I really do. I think she won.
Yes. Tina?
So I'll continue talking about personal experiences. I've never been on a stage more than with myself as a slam artist, a poet who writes my own material, perform my own material as a solo artist on stage by myself, unless there's some music and a band, accompanying me. Beyond that, I've never had to, move on stage with other characters and know my cue, watch a director, listen to the music. And it was beyond my normal comfort zone. Dennis kept telling me, Tina, you're moving too much. You're moving to be still. You're moving too much. Because I was so excited and, thrilled to be there and wanted to show the passion. So there was a balance that I had to find with being so, honored to be a part of a production that was so powerful lyrically. So pioneering in breaking ground where Black people are on stage in this magnitude with such great quality, fine art, talent. And then the responsibility of bringing all of that to life. It was a challenge for me, life-changing for sure, but by far one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever been a part of. So thank you to everybody who had a hand in making this happen. You too, Ebony. I know you're interviewing us, but you too. Let's stop and
Tina,
get
you
Ebony
were like,
sometime.
right. Thank you. I don't need it, but Tina, you were like such a natural. I remember I was just always like during the process, just like so shocked about like how quickly you would pick up things and like how you would just like dive so deeply into the text without reservation or like fear. And I just loved it. And then we'd get into the space and we'd be like, Tina, go stage right. And you'd be like, I don't know what stage right is. I don't know. And I'd be like, oh, forgot. Like you tricked me. So talented. So, I think, from what you guys all just said, what was standing out to me is like the importance of HGO creating this space for Black stories to not only be told, but to be created. We kind of mentioned before that we've been involved in this process for years at a time. And that's kind of what it takes to make a new new work come to life and come to light to its full potential. I wonder if you guys could speak on the process that putting this together has been, and kind of all of the different spaces that HGO created for these Black creatives to come together and build this show.
Yeah, that sounds like a me question. I think I've been a part of this project for the longest amount of time, because for obvious reasons. And I think, there was all kind of spaces. One was them being able to say, we're going to step outside of maybe what our classical circle of people is and think about what are the ways that we could connect with the Houston community, with Black artists that maybe are not used to opera, right? Like I'd never written an opera before. Um, and so for that was really huge, right? To be able to say, like, she's the poet laureate of Houston, but maybe she wants to learn how to write an opera. I don't know. Maybe that's something she'd be interested in. I think also, we had multiple months of workshopping, of really like coming together and putting the stage up and tweaking and changing and shifting and adding scenes overnight and taking things away, and to have the support to know that we could speak honestly about the work and really get to the heart of it. And we can, just say like, this is not working and this is totally working and I want more of this and I don't need this over here. Like all those spaces made jobs, made opportunities, made points that they could hear us. And I think as Black artists, what we want more than anything is to be heard, right? Like we want our work to be heard and celebrated, but we want to be heard for what we intended. And we want to figure out how to make those intentions more clearly instead of having those intentions always change to something more comfortable. And so I think over everything else, like that is the thing that HGOco was able to do that I'm probably the most grateful for, is really just to hear us.
There was definitely a lot of changes and tweaks, but I mean, coming from, I had been at HGO at the studio program for my 2 years, and that was where I sort of really honed this craft. And I sing music that's hundreds of years old. That's my job. The music is done. And there's so many styles that you learn. Oh, this is French Baroque style. This is, early Italian style of singing. But this was just, this was new music. This was truly a, hands-on sort of situation. We met, like Deep was saying, we were meeting. We were literally overnight, like, this is too long, or hey, thinking about things even from being on stage, like, oh, we actually don't have time, for this change. We need to add music. I'm never, as a singer, for what it is, I'm never involved in those processes. It's usually just, this is what it is, figure it out. But this was like, how can we make it work? How could we do this? We could do this, we could do that. So it was really exciting. Like I, have never really been involved that deeply in a process in that way. So for me, it was very new, very exciting, fast paced, but it was something we all deeply cared about. So it was a really fun process.
I want to talk about the fast pacedness because I live in South Dakota. And well, I work in South Dakota, but I live in Houston. I fly quite a bit between my other career in engineering, construction, and then poetry. And so the rehearsals for me were sometimes catered around my schedule, but that meant that when I landed, I had to really hit the line, really hit the timing, and then get back on the plane and go back to something else, and then come back and really be engaged as if I never left. In a way that I don't know how many other people had to do those kind of traveling challenges, but my process, in addition to just getting to Houston and being in place in the right time, my process had a lot to do with landing my last line within the time. Mind you, I don't read music, right? Can't count a measure. I don't know how, some of these artists are able to switch from what is it, like 3/4 to 4/4 to, I saw what is it, time measure? What is it?
Time signatures.
Time signatures I never seen before. I was like, how are you doing this? And meanwhile, here I am trying to, you can't count. I can't count the music to even figure out I should be done right about here. And so the hardest process for me was finally having a recording of the music and then practicing privately the recording to get an idea of the flow of, the songs and how they would go. Again, not being able to read music means that I wasn't able to practice the song on my own, right? Like I had to have the recording in order to pair that with the poetry. And so different from everyone else in this production was truly the process of refining the poetry performance in a world that was very, classical and disciplined. So that was a very different process for me.
Yeah.
I remember very vividly, I think it was at the piano workshop, and it was Dennis, Deborah, and Damien and I. And I was like, can we get like 45 seconds for this quick change? Like, we just need a little bit more time. And Damien like sat there right at the piano and we timed it. And I'm thinking in my head, walk to the stage and do this, do that. Like I'm miming it in my head, even though we don't have the pieces, but I know like how the work happens. And just having that time and that space to be able to do that early on, to kind of pad that, that was really cool. And hearing it and seeing it and having those different deadlines to where you can stop review and enhance. And I think that makes all the difference in the world, and it's really it translates so well. And I was just so proud to be a part of everything that everybody came together to do.
Amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't know that, Christy. That's awesome. All right, we're at the end of our time. This conversation flew by. I want to thank you all for joining us for it. As we end, I want real quickly for each of you to tell us what your favorite part of the show is.
I'll go.
Yes.
And it's actually different because of how the filming went. Because I think that this libretto actually lends itself very well to filming, to be honest. And my favorite moment is I can still hear the choir, still, and they just appear because we could do that in the movie Magic Land. And I'm like, oh, yes, magic.
Love it.
I'll go before someone takes mine. And I'll say, because of the film thing as well, it's when Nevaeh is talking about Marian coming home and we see those flashes through the train doors.
Yes.
That, like in the film version, is absolutely my favorite moment. And kudos to Dennis, because that was all you, honey.
Nice.
I bawled when I saw that the first time. And I was like,
my favorite part, and I shared this with Deep as well, is the line, "No fear of being Icarus when you are the noonday sun." I feel like that is you hit it, girl. You hit it. And that encourages me so much, and I love that line.
I'm glad you said that, because mine is lyrical as well. I'm like, wait, I don't think I have a favorite part more so than favorite lines. And one of mine is, "Show me how the black cracks and lets all the sunshine out."
Yes.
That was just great for me. so many
good.
rich lines. But that was by far one of my favorite. Another one was, "When you dream, fear, I no longer know your name." That was one of the lines that Zoe sang. Anyway, it's lyrical for me.
Right. What about you, Zoe?
I loved getting to sing Morgan. One, in the green dress, girl. You really did it. And also the theater, it was just so beautiful. And I get the intro of Morgan, which is beautiful music, to just be in it. And the stage direction from Dennis, which was awesome, is just like, she feels the piano. She's there at the theater. It's just like a beautiful moment. And one of my favorite lines is actually the scene with just Nevaeh, the last line where she says, if you can, what is it?
If you lift
your legs high enough when you jump, when you land, it's something like that. But that line, like, and it's always my grandmama used to say. Any line that starts with my grandmama used to say is gonna be good, because grandmama knows, right? Like, she has everything.
Fully agree. I was gonna say that too. That is my favorite line. Scene 7. That is all
the whole thing.
The whole thing. And the last line, if you lift your legs high enough when you leap forward, something is bound to stick. So good. Oh my gosh. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I really enjoyed this conversation with this group of Black creatives. I hope we get to do it again. HGO, let's do it again. Thank you so much for having us, and everybody have a good night.
Wow.
Bye.
Thank you.
Emancipation Park Conservancy's We Are Juneteenth is a national campaign that celebrates Juneteenth and its connections to the African American experience, including history, tradition, heritage, and culture. We Are Juneteenth is a digital platform that provides an opportunity to communicate, share, acknowledge, and recognize the significant contributions African Americans have made to help shape American culture and society. The campaign is a collaborative movement that highlights the strides and impact African Americans are making toward their own economical, educational, and political advancement. You know, last year, We Are Juneteenth was a virtual experience, and it reached over 250,000 people globally, with more than 25,000 people engaging in the Conservancy's content digitally. We are sure this year will be just as successful, and we cannot wait to celebrate 150 years of Emancipation Park with you in person next year. We have a great lineup of activities scheduled for the community to celebrate Juneteenth all month long. So make sure you visit our website at www.epconservancy.org or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at EP Conservancy for more information. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. Happy Juneteenth, and we hope you enjoy the webinar. Thank you.